The Cleveland Cavaliers head coaching search and the Lakers head coaching search, though, have been overlapping to some extent because of one James Borrego, the Pelicans associate head coach, who was the head coach in Charlotte previously, got the Hornets to 2 play-in games, and now he's, by all accounts, is positioned as the leader right now. After we're recording this on Thursday, he met with Cleveland people on Tuesday, all day Tuesday. They have Kenny Atkinson and Micah Nori in the building in person. The rest of this week, as we reported on Yahoo Sports yesterday, those are definitely the 3 guys that are being viewed around the league as the quote-unquote finalists for this job. The Cavs are still Zooming with other candidates, and they're telling coaching agents, we're not done yet. Like, your guy might get an in-person thing. To me, I'm just reading the tea leaves as I can. To me, it seems like those guys are like, oh, if the in-person things don't necessarily work out, we will be calling you.
Right.
So that, to me, is where this thing is focused. Right now, it does seem like James Borrego, again, is the leader for the Cavs job. But so many people have been leaders for coaching jobs in the past that has not come to fruition, whether they weren't able to land the plane or the team couldn't sign them to a contract, as happened in Los Angeles with Dan Hurley over the weekend. So there's plenty of moving parts here. And we'll stick with Cleveland for a second before we get to the Lakers part of it at all, because one thing that was consistent that I've heard throughout all my conversations about that job is that Cleveland is really focused on this next man on their sidelines to be an offensive innovator, someone with creativity who can figure out how to use 2 diminutive guards and have them also prop up 2 giant centers who don't exactly have collaborative skill sets. And there's this tug and pull of what position Evan Mobley naturally plays and what have you. But I don't know. You look at other huge teams playing 2 bigs and they seem to work out just fine if one of them can shoot league average from distance. So that is the hope with Evan Mobley. Definitely not the hope with Jared Allen. I think that hope has long since sailed. He is truly a rim runner, and that's why him and Donovan Mitchell can just be together of the 2 out of the 4 and win like 18 straight games or whatever it was in the winter. So Kenny's been there from a developmental standpoint with J.A., with Karis LeVert in Brooklyn. Micah Nori's definitely been someone who's been credited for helping Denver in the past with their new offensive principles, just like Chris Finch was when they were shifting to a Nikola Jokic offense. And, of course, he stepped up when Chris Finch suffered a knee injury throughout these playoffs and kind of really pushed Micah further into the next head coaching up ranks. But Borrego seems to be like the quote-unquote offensive guru here that really is taking pole position of this, because the Cavs, as we've been saying, they have no interest in trading Darius Garland. You know, the Spurs get talked about, but like what would the number 4 pick and the number 8 pick in theory and like Keldon Johnson do for Cleveland right now when they just fired their head coach because they want to get further into the playoffs? You know what I mean? It's going to be, there's a match made in heaven in theory of just swapping Brandon Ingram for Darius Garland, which would be, I think, fun for New Orleans side of things. But I don't know if the Cavs are so keen on doing that trade and then having to be the ones to pay the very hefty extension that Brandon Ingram would like, that is throwing his situation in New Orleans in flux. So I'm of the mind that in Cleveland, we're going to be seeing this core 4. Everyone around the league is pretty of the mind that Donovan will be signing a shorter extension. The prevailing thought is he would do something more of like in a 3-year range, to like that way when he gets back into free agency, he would have 10 years of service and be eligible for a higher percentage of the cap, which is going to be like $700 million per season by that point. So right now, it seems like one of those 3 guys is going to be the one tasked with optimizing all that. And right now, seems like it's James Borrego's job to lose. He set the tone Tuesday, he had the first in-person meeting. So everyone else, just by sheer how life works, they will be compared to how that first in-person interview went.
And he's the only one that I could, of those three. Obviously, Mike Inori has not been a head coach at this level before, so he doesn't have the track record in that regard outside of this postseason run where he stepped to the front of the bench for Chris Finch, as you mentioned. But Kenny Atkinson, we've got several years of him being a head coach in Brooklyn. Obviously, the talent that he was coaching in Brooklyn was, that was very much the like, churn the roster, set up a system, and then find guys because they were strip mine of assets following the Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce trade. So that was like, he had to build that organization up and build that roster up. So he was not dealing with all-star talent, right? But James Borrego, you can actually look at when he took over in Charlotte, the first iteration that he had was still built around Kemba Walker, and that was a near top 10 offense. Then he gets LaMelo Ball after a couple down years, and it's a near top 5 offense. So like, we've actually seen him generate and create an offense that can get into the upper reaches of the offensive efficiency standings. That can like buoy a team and get it into competitive, into a more competitive context, even with lacking talent or lacking defense or youth or whatever. The thing that's, I mentioned this when we talked about Cleveland before, the thing that remains interesting to me is just, if your main candidates are guys who have been like rebuild coaches to get you to a certain level of competitiveness, and not ones who have proven that they can win playoff series, that they can game plan deep into the playoffs, that they can be the team that can elevate you past 50 wins in the second round. Like, that's where Cleveland is. But those guys don't exactly grow on trees, and when they're around, many teams want to hang on to them. So that's the kind of the challenge that they're facing. They're looking for a creative solution to a problem that a lot of organizations have faced, including the Lakers.